Well, another week here in the metro area of Minnesota. I'll tell you what, this last week was pretty darn nice. I mean, in typical spring Minnesota weather fashion, I feel like every time we talk about fishing or every one of these weekly fishing reports, we talk about weather. Well, here's the deal. It's an important part of fishing. Weather plays a role, absolutely, especially here in the springtime, where we're always thinking about temperature. I've talked to a lot of people in the last few days at the Thorne Bros spring sale. A lot of awesome people, talked a lot of great crappie tactics, bass tactics, walleyes, destinations, had some fun, goofed off. But it seemed like the topic of weather came up quite a bit. Wind, rain, pressure, instability, all these things that Minnesota spring brings with it, and oftentimes things we don't often put into play. Now, you look at a day like today, upper 60s, right, for the high. We had a little bit of scattered showers in certain parts of the metro area. We had wind here and there. We had all that kind of stuff. Yesterday, Saturday, similar situation. Didn't get any rain. We had weather that seemed apparently very nice, but the wind was whipping. The wind changed direction. So these are all things that can change how we fish in a given day, change how we plan for our day of fishing. So pay attention to that sort of stuff. Direction of wind, speed isn't going to change throughout the day. Does it start out of the northwest in the morning and come out of the east in the afternoon? All those things are things definitely to consider. We've talked about temperature here on this report multiple times, and I'm a big believer in water temperature in the spring. Even if it goes from 46 to 47 and a half, you can sometimes see that fish behavior rapidly change. So pay attention to your depth on your Lowrance or your electronics or whatever you're using, and sometimes just those subtle changes in one part of a bay to the next part of the bay can be a big difference in your catch rate. So easy things, simple stuff. It's looking like the week ahead is going to be nice again. We have possibly some rain moving through. If you look at the wind, it's not going away. I'm telling you, even in 60-degree weather, I still seem to have a vest on, a stocking cap on half the day, even though you get off the boat and on land, you're like, it's really this nice out? Everything's different on the water. You got to remember, that water is still in the 40s. You get a bunch of wind, it blows that 40-degree water, that 40-degree feel, that 40-degree, air back at you. So everything feels colder on the water. That's the dad in me preaching, so I'm done. I tell my kids, bring plenty of clothes. You can always take a layer off, but if you don't have it, you can't put a layer on. So it's amazing how much chillier it can feel on the water. So easy peasy. What are the fish doing? They're doing pretty much the same thing as they were doing last week. Now we're seeing a little bit of an uptick on behavior happening quicker in the day. And I mean that earlier in the week, it was like things bit well from noon on is when things really turned on. Otherwise, in the morning, you had to kind of work for them, kind of had to simmer around. But once things turned on, usually midday, noonish, things really started to pop. Good morning, Jason. Come on. Come here. Come on. There's my dog. Want to say Jason? Jason, want to say, have a cameo on camera? Here's Jason. Say hello to everybody. Good morning, Jason. Jason's running around the house. All right, go. And those are things that we sometimes don't always consider. So the morning bite does slow down. You do not have to get up and be there at sunrise. I think that's important. But afternoon, you probably notice as you're out there fishing, the bite gets better and better and better and better. Why do you think that is? Water's warming up. Things are changing. Conditions are changing. Fish are acclimating. Things feel better for them. As that water just ticks up, even a half degree, it's amazing how much it can change the behavior of those fish. You come through a certain spot in the morning, you're marking all these fish, they're not biting. You come through a few hours later, maybe in the exact same spot, and they're just hammering and things are happening. So easy things to consider. The week ahead looks like we're gonna have some warm weather tick in again, 50s. I think I saw some 60s. There's gonna be some days with some rain. Hey, it's middle of April in Minnesota. Take what you can get. We have the gear, we have the clothing, we have the comfort level to get out there and do it. That's what I always tell people. Put on your rain slicker, put on your rain bibs if you have to, even to block the wind, things that are important. A pair of gloves that I really love. I talked about these before, but I just like them because I always hate gloves in the spring. Sometimes they're necessary to keep your hands warm, right? but I just feel like I can never do anything. I can't tie knots, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, these woolly fingerless gloves from Clam I think are awesome because I can keep the bulky, meaty part of my hand warm, but if I want, I can still tie knots and get things done. I can still very effectively fish. Really cool pair of gloves, I think, for the springtime. Kind of the best of both worlds. Keep the chill off your hands. I can handle fish, handle things. Simple, shameless plug, but I do really like those gloves. I didn't use them a lot in the wintertime, to be honest, which is, I think, their design. But here in the spring, a little more dexterity in my fingertips when I'm tying knots and doing things. They're great in the boat here the last week or so. So things that we have to look at this week. I'm going to continue to fish underneath a float. I've talked about a rocket bobber for weeks. I'm not going to bore you with this again, but a lot of people ask about it. It seems to be a topic I addressed every hour or more than once every hour throughout the weekend at Thorne Bros. People asking about rocket bobbers, haven't used it, this and that. Real quick synopsis. Like we talked about, it lays flat on the water. You work. I'm swimming my bait back all the time. If you know me, I'm fishing that bait even with the bobber. I'm working that bait. I'm not just casting and staring at a float. I'm working that back to the water or to the boat like this, hopping, and that bait's just swimming in the strike zone. And when a fish bites, it flips this way, it flips up, it flips back. It does something different than just sit in the water and track towards the boat. So the second you see that thing go from noon to 3 or noon to 9 or flip over to 6 o'clock, set the hook. That's your fish. Otherwise, they're going to bolt right back out and you're going to miss that bite. So rocket bobber, simple to fish, cast a country mile, super fun. Something you should definitely consider. I know they were darn near selling out at Thorne Brothers over the weekend. Anglers are on to that way of fishing. So bait's a choice. 32nd ounce jig head. That seems to be the norm again. I get a lot of questions about what size, what weight. 32nd has been probably that best, most versatile size. Hooks can vary depending on the jig from 8, 6, something like that. Also depending on your plastic, match it up with the plastic you plan to fish. I've been fishing a lot of baits that are under 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, tubes, little minnow bait, fleck baits, Niku flutter fry, excellent option, bulky, meaty portion of that plastic, little flick tail, little wings on the side, catches a pile of fish. I've been really playing around with some of the Z-Man plastics, panfish plastics. I do not know the names of all of them, but very, very durable as a fishing guide. I had people fish the same plastic for literally hours, if not all day. There's a tube variation, there's a minnow variation, there's a fleck tail variation. It's that Elastec stuff. You can find it right there at Thorne Brothers. They had a great aisle of it. I seem to have spent a lot of time in the crappie plastics and jigs the last few days there. That stuff all works. Color, no different than anything you've ever heard me say. Something light, something dark, something off the wall. We caught them really good on more natural presentations this last week. Honestly, a black jig head, 132nd ounce drop TG from Clam in black. Match it with your favorite plastic. Worked very well. You can use a lead colored jig head. Farrell also whooped him the other day with a pretty bright colored jig head and a white plastic. So I think more often than not, it's more important to be in front of fish that want to bite than it is getting ourselves all wrapped up in the color that we're using to catch fish. So those are simple things that come into play. Hair jigs definitely coming into play. Sweet spot is still that 8 to 12 feet, even 6 feet. There are some fish moving up a little shallower. Once again, I have yet to go back into a cut, back bay channel. Anglers are doing it. Anglers are catching fish in there. Totally get it. I'm still fishing main lake weeds, and if I can, that's the only place I'll be all of springtime. I think our better schools of consistent fish stay out there. You will get those little windows where they move in, certainly in a few weeks to spawn. But even some of your bigger fish are going to spawn main lake. They're not going to leave those expansive weed flats. They might move up to some of these deeper dock lines or pencil reeds if you have those under lakes. Those are places that these fish will spawn. Not yet. We are a few weeks ahead of that. The shallow movement that we're seeing right now, as it happens here, is temperature-driven, comfort, forage, those sorts of things. These crappies are not quite moving up to spawn here in the next few weeks. They will later in April and into May. And that's when you start seeing them get real dark and metallic, and the females are getting real big and bulbous with looks like they swallow golf balls. You'll notice we're not there yet on the fish you're catching. Close, but still a couple weeks away. So that's the plan. This next week, I'm going to do a lot of the same things. I'm pretty much going to live on Minnetonka. I might hit a couple other lakes. We'll see how things go, but I'm going to be fishing Tonka quite a bit again this next week. Fun body of water to fish, lots of places to fish. Get off the beaten path. Don't just follow the other boats, because I promise you there's 20 other spots probably within eyesight or a short boat ride where the crappies are biting. So continue to stick to the course, similar pattern I think this next week as we've had this last week. I'm excited for it. I'm going to continue to check floats. I'm going to try to fish some small swim baits. Maybe go to a 16th ounce head if we get a little bit of a warmer pattern coming in here this week. We'll see. Every day's different. We'll let that dictate what happens and how the bite goes. And if you feel like you're just struggling, slow down. Don't be afraid to put on a small hair jig. Slow down, but keep that bait moving. Just casting out there with a float and doing nothing, oftentimes right now, is just not an option. Now, if you're fishing a live minnow, possibly. Me, with plastics, I am still working that bait back to the boat all the time, watching for some type of nuance or change in my float or bobber application. So get out there, have some fun. This is my favorite time of year to go out fishing. I love it. Springtime crappies, full swing. It's only going to get better. Have fun, get out there, be safe.